We're going to look at the 4 or 5 stages of finishing the aluminium surface before it's ready to go into the box and be stored. So after you've finished working on the thread, or you finished putting the chamfer on the top, or drilling, or whatever you're doing with your particular length of aluminium tube, when you remove it from the vise, you'll see that the cheeks of the vise, these little plates here, these are the cheeks, these parts here, they screw into the jaws of the vise. They have quite sharp grip on them, so that the material that they are holding keeps relatively still whilst you're working on it. Particularly if you're trying to cut a thread inside there, you want it to not spin. So it's got the cheeks have got little teeth on there to stop that. But what happens is you end up with little scratches, sometimes they're quite deep, on the surface of your aluminium. So what you'll do is you're going to use something that's quite abrasive. It's called emery cloth, E-M-E-R-Y cloth. It's called cloth because it is that. It's almost like a denim, like a jean material. Very difficult to tear by hand, and you're just going to rub the emery cloth over where the scratches are. You don't need to sand the whole length of the aluminium surface there. You just want to aim for where the teeth marks are from left from the vise. So you want to just keep sanding those for a while. And whilst you're sanding it, every now and again, if you just rotate the surface underneath one of the lights in the room, you should see that there aren't any shadows or any reflections from the light within the teeth mark or the scratches on the surface. So if you keep sanding that until you're confident that all them scratches have gone, they've all disappeared. The next thing you're going to use after the emery cloth, you're going to use 240 grit, wet and dry paper. It's a lot smoother than the emery cloth, but it's not really the finest. It's still not ready, still not quite ready to be put in the box and stored. So you'll go over with the 240 grit wet and dry now to try and get rid of the scratches that the emery cloth has left. It's important that you work up and down the length of the material as well. Then you go over it with the 240 grit until you're happy that all the scratches have gone from the emery cloth. You'll then pick a piece of 400. So the higher the number means that the closer the particles are on the surface of the sandpaper, and the closer they are, the finer they are. So there's 400 particles per square inch, which means that roughly 2.6 centimeter squares. There's 400 particles. So this is a lot finer now, and this is going to get rid of the teeth or the scratches left by the 240 grit wet and dry. So you can see there's a shine on it already. It's already starting to be shiny now. Just go over it a bit more. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do after you've used the emery cloth, you've used the 400 grit, you've used the emery cloth, you've used the 240, then you use the 400. Now we're going to use some bit of liquid polish. And we're going to use that on a paper towel. A bit of a shake. Now it is a very fine cutting compound, so there is metal particles within this liquid. So this will get rid of some of the scratches left from that last piece of wet and dry, that 400 grit wet and dry, in preparation for going onto the buffer. Once we're at the buffing wheel, we'll see that there are 2 pads, but there's only one set of controls. That means that only one person can use one of the two buffing pads at once. Should only be one operator at this complete set of machine. So there's one set of controls. That means that one person can use the machine at once. So switch the pad on. Got some wax. I'll just give it a little bit of wax. Just pressing it down slightly. And then I'm going to have a look at where I've just been polishing. So you're going to use between 6 o'clock and 3 o'clock. You can only use that quarter of the pad. You only use from between there and here. And as you move the material down, keep it constantly moving slowly, and you rotate it at the same time. Then you'll be left. Sometimes if you just put wax on there, you'll find that you've left some wax residue on the end. We'll just give it a bit of a wipe with the cloth, spare kitchen towel that's knocking about, and then we'll see. You see how shiny it is now. So I could probably do with going back on there. Okay, so we'll have a look at this. I've just put it back on the buffer for a couple of seconds. It's quite hot now, so that's a lot better. So it just needed a bit longer. I applied a bit more force, held it here against the wheel, applied a bit more force to it, lifting upwards towards the buffing pad. There's a bit of grease, or a bit of wax still on the surface there, but as you can see, it's very shiny. And that's how you finish your aluminium tubes for your stands and the top arm of your lamp.